Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. We will begin shortly.
You're from Greece?
Yeah.
Quest. Oh, Welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Good afternoon and salam satu Malaysia. I'd like to bid to Yang Berhormat Dato Sri Haji Idris Yusof, Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia, Mr. Zahir Merchant, Council Member of Quest International University Perak, Mr. Nicholas Goh, Chief Operating Officer of Quest International University Perak, Chief Operating Officer of Quest International University Perak, Associate Professor Dr. Chandran Somasunjan of University Malaya, Executive Advisor for Malaysian Institute for Debate in Public Speaking, and Chief Adjudicator for QIUP WUPIT 2017, Mr. Daniel Hasni Mustafa, Co-Founder of World University's Peace Invitational Debate, Dato Kamal bin Mohammed, Deputy Secretary General of Ministry of Education Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the launching of Quest International University Perak World University's Peace Invitational Debate. My name is Alison Jong from the Malaysian Institute for Debate in Public Speaking, and I'll be your MC for this event. WUPIT first kicked off in 2007 and was last organized in 2012. This tournament has seen many teams from many prestigious universities around the world, and we are extremely grateful for Quest International to revamp and reorganize this tournament. We have an exciting exhibition debate lined up for you before we start out with the press conference, just to introduce the audience to the concept of debating. However, the launching and the debate will be live streamed by MIDP for Malaysian Debaters TV for the viewing of the global debating community. So now I'd like to move on to the exhibition debate, but before that, I'd like to introduce our debaters for this debate. On the government side, we have Jessica Musselin and Leroy Ting. Jessica Musselin hails from Australia, currently pursuing a master's in Australia National University. She's the current champion of the Austro-Asian Intervarsity Debating Championship, one of the most prestigious debating tournaments in the world. Whereas her teammate for this debate, Leroy Ting, is currently pursuing a degree in law in University of Malaya. He is a two-time ASL champion of Austro-Asian Intervarsity Debating Championship, and is the current champion of Malaysian Royals Intervarsity Debating Championship. On the opposition side, we have Jasmine Ho Abdullah and Shahib Zada Mubasir Noor. Jasmine graduated with a degree in law from University Technology Mara Shah Alam. She's a World's University Debating Championship Open Category semi-finalist and is one of the top 10 speakers in the world. And last but not least, Shahib Zada Mubasir Noor. He is currently pursuing a bachelor's degree in mass communication at Quest International University Perak. He represented Quest International in numerous debating tournaments and was crowned champion in the public speaking category at the recent UTP National English Olympics. Before we start, I'd like to state the rules of this debate. Each debater is given 7 minutes to present their arguments on the motion, and the reply speaker of each team is given 4 minutes to speak. The bell will be rung on the 1st minute, the 6th minute, and will be rung twice on the 7th minute to signal to the debater that he or she should wrap up their speech. And the motion for today, which is presented on the slide, This House believes that physical universities and the on-campus experience will no longer be relevant in the fourth industrial revolution. I'd like to call upon the Prime Minister to start the debate. Here.
Ladies and gentlemen, universities are a crucial space for learning, but as technology evolves, that environment does not necessarily need to be physical. And that's why we would propose that in the fourth industrial revolution, the physical environment of universities and the on-campus experience is not relevant. To be clear, what do we mean in today's debate? When we're talking about the fourth industrial revolution, we're talking about the evolution of technology as it currently stands in terms of the internet age, online information, automation, robotics, and those sorts of things. What do we think an open online education without a physical space looks like? We think that looks like an online platform for learning supported by the sorts of technology that we see today. We think that means that, for example, where there is equipment required or a practical type of learning, universities can partner with schools and hospitals and corporations to deliver that practical in-person experience. But when it comes to teaching and those sorts of things, that online platform is most relevant. And of course, people can still meet to do things like debating. They can still come together, but they can come together on a physical space that is geographically convenient for them, not necessarily a fixed university location. So, 2 points in this speech. Firstly, why is this possible? Why do we think open online education is more relevant in this fourth industrial revolution? And secondly, why this is beneficial, why we should strive for this type of education. So in terms of why this is possible, the first thing that we'd say is that technology has already made it very possible to have the sorts of online and open education platforms that make physical universities no longer relevant in today's world. Things like video conferencing technology means that lectures can be delivered to hundreds and hundreds of students, wherever they may be geographically in the world. We're not just talking about lectures though. Things like tutorials and group discussions can be facilitated environments where students can have discussions together through mediums like Skype and can have those debates. But importantly, we're not just talking about what technology looks like now, we're talking about what technology could look like in the near future. And we're not even capable of yet imagining the sorts of technology that will be facilitated in the future. But moreover, when universities no longer have to maintain a physical environment, which can be very costly, those resources and those types of funding can be moved into the development of technology and other types of mediums that will better ensure technology is accessible to students. So we think when you no longer have to maintain that expensive physical environment, those things can become far easier. And to give you an example, many Ivy League institutions are already doing things like online education courses that are easily accessible to students all over the world. Harvard, for example, has an Education X platform, which means that they can have certificates that are available to just about anyone. Those certificates can be provided to people. Identity can be verified online through things like photos, and the fees for those courses are very low. So this is certainly possible in today's society. Moving to my next point, why is this a good thing? Moreover, more than just being possible, why is this something that we should strive for? And why is this something that governments should facilitate? So firstly, less physical space constraints means that students, teachers, anyone can move around more easily. You no longer have to think of the time that it takes to travel from A to B to simply attend a class. You have more time to invest in learning, less time required to travel and to go from different locations, and that is significant. But secondly, we think that actually the environment that we live in now is one where companies and workplaces are expecting their graduates and people who are coming into that market to be well equipped to deal with technology, to be well equipped to work online and to do those sorts of things and to work flexibly. That is the expectation that many employers have. So this type of environment means that those students who are graduating, coming out of an online learning environment, are more equipped to deal with those challenges and those expectations from employers. But we'd also say that this actually maximizes the talents of teachers, because now you can pick the best teacher to teach a class, and that class is then receiving the best education possible, because that teacher can now be teaching in many places at once because of that online environment. It means that less well-equipped teachers don't have to be hired in the first place. You can maximize the talent of individuals by getting them to teach in just about everywhere because it's an online course. But we'd also say that you benefit a number of particular stakeholders by moving to a more open and online education platform. Firstly, students who are limited by distance. That might be students who are residing in another country, students who are limited geographically. When you have an online education platform, it is limitless as to where you can attend a university. You can enroll in a university on the other side of the world. Secondly, though, there are groups of students who need flexibility, maybe students who work full-time, students who have other social responsibilities that they need to meet. Those students are unable to attend a physical means of receiving that education. Now, when this is more emphasized, they can do things like watch their lecture anytime they want, and they can still meet their other commitments. But finally, we think low-income students benefit the most from online education, because when we think universities don't, as I've already said before, have to invest as much time and money in maintaining a physical environment, that means that they can lower fees in order to facilitate low-income students from attending. The last thing to say in this speech is, how do we measure that against the benefits of face-to-face learning? The first thing I'd say is that students will adjust to this over time, in the same way that they've adjusted to evolving technology over the last many decades. But in many cases, class sizes are quite big. Students don't necessarily get the same face-to-face contact in a physical environment anyway. A more flexible online approach means that you can tailor the types of learning to students, and students who do benefit from that more personal face-to-face contact can get it, but through an online platform. So for all these reasons, I'm very proud to propose.
I thank the Prime Minister for that speech. Now I call upon the Leader of Opposition to the floor. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the fourth industrial revolution have changed the way in which we approach many things, some for the better and some for the worse. In an age where the number one problem unemployed Malaysian graduates face is a lack of communication skills and interpersonal skills, side government wants to make that worse by having students face a screen and email their answers. What we need to prove in this debate from side opposition isn't that online classes are not good or not relevant. What we are going to tell you is that those things are good, but interpersonal skills and on-campus experience is something that you must have and will always be relevant and always be necessary. What we will tell you is that two things. Number one, why campus experiences are necessary to aid learning and allow students to understand how their work-life environment will look like. And number two, campuses are the only places that are well equipped with infrastructures that are accessible to allow students to access those things. So firstly, why a campus experience extremely necessary? Firstly, I want to say that classroom is designed to help concentration. Having a lecture in class forces you to concentrate. In a digital age in which a lot of students find trouble concentrating in classes, having a screen in front of you don't allow a lot of students to concentrate the way they would in classes. So we think that this would be a good thing to allow a classroom to exist. Secondly, you can only truly stimulate a work life when you have a class. For example, when you study in law school, it's perhaps better to stimulate a court process in class where students role play as lawyers. But if this was an online class, all the students will have to do are watch court proceedings on a video. That's hardly a good way for them to be able to understand the way in which they will work in the future. Secondly, campus experiences are also better because they're well equipped with infrastructure to help students, especially of sciences background, to have hands-on experience with experiments, surgeries, and so on. Without all of this, like Jess said, they would have to go to companies, all of those other places in order to get these experiences. If any of you have ever interned at a law firm, you know that you probably learn more about photocopying and stapler than you would learn about actual things. The reason for that is because companies are not designed to teach you. They are designed to stimulate a work environment, whether you are prepared to enter that work environment or not. They're not there to spoon feed you or to teach you through that. And sometimes it's necessary to have lectures to walk you through that process, to have you have all of those hands-on experience without immediately diving into a work environment where you are rendered useless because you don't have all of those initial guidance. So that's why we think it's very necessary that campuses are well equipped with all of these things. Otherwise, you'll have medical graduates who graduated out of medical school never having touched a surgery knife before. Thirdly, I think that universities that only have online campuses, online classes, will hurt weaker students and the underprivileged students as well. So they say that the weaker students will be able to get one-on-one personal time. But how do you identify weaker students in a time in which lecturers aren't able to identify those students? In a class environment, lecturers are able to identify weaker students, are able to speak to them, and students will feel very comfortable approaching them. In a world in which they don't have to do that, unfortunately, they won't. Very little students who are weak identify themselves as being weak students and are willing to approach lecturers if those classes are online, if they don't have a real relationship with that lecturer. A real relationship between a student and a lecturer happens more likely if those students are able to face the lecturer, speak to the lecturer every day, and develop those relationships. Students are also less likely to ask other students for help because they don't have a personal relationship with them. They don't meet them. Most of them probably don't even know the students in classes. So it's very unlikely that they will try to become friends with these students. They won't be able to approach other students for help as well. This means that you have very little students who know each other, who can network with each other, who can work together to create large-scale projects in the future. What we have are students who maybe can score very well, who can maybe write really, really good essays and very good emails, but not students who can speak to each other very well, who can understand each other well, nor students who can actually understand how the working environment works. We think on-campus experience are exclusive. You can't get this anywhere else. You can't get this in companies. You can't get this in law firms. You can't get this in hospitals, where every other environment are not designed to teach you, and every other environment are designed to just be there to assist you in some way. They're not designed to ensure that you get a good educational experience. Now, side opposition, what we really believe is that in order to have students become holistic individuals, to be able to have activities, to be able to speak to each other very well, to be able to learn things like more than just educational things like respect, you need to be able to have on-campus experience, and we're extremely proud to oppose.
I thank the leader of opposition for that speech. Now I like to call upon the Deputy Prime Minister. Here.
Every day as I go to university, as I attend the best law school in the country, as I travel the hallowed halls where luminaries such as our Chief Justice and the majority of our Federal Court and Court of Appeals judges traveled before, I'm racked by guilt. I'm racked by guilt because the privilege I enjoy is inaccessible to the mass majority of other citizens in my country. I'm racked by guilt because only those who have the benefit of 5 luxuries is able to attend the best university in the country. The first luxury is the luxury of space. My faculty only accepts 150 individuals per year. Contrast that to the thousands of individuals who are locked out of that education that I want to attend. I have the luxury of time because I'm able to spend 4 years in another state, far from my homeland in Sarawak, to become a full-time student for 4 whole years where I don't have to worry about supporting my family, where I don't have to worry about going to the farms to work in order to support my siblings. I have the luxury of money to pay for rent, accommodation without the benefit of income. Some people have to support their families and are not able to have that money to fund this education. I have the benefit of talent from studying from lecturers who literally wrote the textbooks in their field, whereas other universities might just have fresh graduates teaching them those subjects. But most importantly, I have the luxury of getting lucky in the lottery of birth. Because I'm born as a cis, straight, Chinese, male individual in this country with all the privilege of the stereotypes that are attached to my identity. I don't suffer discrimination when I don't go to campus. The lecturers assume that I have leadership qualities and give me the opportunities to do so. And this is the most important thing, and will be my point. Why exactly an online open education allows minorities the safe space to access education? But we think that Jasmine was very unresponsive towards all the benefits that we're able to deliver to students, that now we have unlimited space, that one skilled lecturers can teach millions of students, that now you're no longer confined by time, by space. You no longer have to travel across state lines. You can study in the confines of your own house in Felda or working the fields in the morning, but you are able to study and get that law degree by night. We think those points have to be engaged with in order to disprove why government should channel and fund resources towards this education system. Before I tell you about why exactly open education create a safe space for minorities, I'll engage in 3 rebuttals. Jasmine said that we still require universities because number 1, you need to ensure concentration in lectures. I have 3 responses. Number 1, I'm not sure why students will not concentrate in the videos that we give to them when they still have to take assessment in order to pass and get the certificates that they want. So we say there's an incentive because they still want the certificates and still want to graduate with that degree, therefore they'll pay attention. But number 2, our system is better because when it's recorded, when it's online, if you fall sick, or if you lose concentration for a small moment of time, you're able to rewind and go through that lecture again. When everything is physical, you're not able to have that. In the world of opposition, you only need to fall sick for 1 day. You only need to lose concentration for 5 minutes, where is when you'll lose the important things that are taught in lectures, which is why we think open access education is better in concentration. But number 2, Jasmine said you need to stimulate working experience. For example, you have to have moot courts. You have to have mock courts in classrooms. We say, number 1, we tell you that in the absence of going to education, where your unis don't have to fund like multi-million-dollar buildings in order to give you a space to study, that's when universities have more money to give incentives to workers to take in interns, to do industrial attachment. That is when it's instead of having a mock court in classroom, you can actually go to the real courtrooms where you're able to have access to real lawyers arguing real cases in court. Whereas I think there'll be a more valuable working experience as opposed to all the stimulated access that they want in their work. But thirdly, Jasmine told us that we need to have personal relationships and social skills that is cultivated in university. I'm not sure which world she lives in, but we think that in our world, outside of universities, we are not hermits that are just confined to our rooms. We tell you that students have very vibrant social lives. We have a lot of extracurricular activities, clubs, for example. We can join a lot of NGOs, soup kitchens. We are able to do internships at employers who will be happy to have individual stepper staff for them, but in exchange for that, they'll give you some valuable experiences. So we say those are more helpful than all the personal relationships that you can forge in a stimulated environment in university. That is why we think open access education is superior. So moving on to my point, why exactly does an open education create a safe space for minorities to access education? As I stated earlier, as a straight, able-bodied Chinese male, I suffer less discrimination and is given a lot of opportunities in university. But other individuals are not so lucky. I'm talking about the minorities who suffer from gender discrimination. If you are a woman in our public universities, sure, you might have more women, but the women who do get into university, they suffer discrimination. They get less attention in classrooms. Their voices are valued less in class. The male students talk over them. They are prone to sexual assault, harassment, getting catcalled. All this creates a very hostile environment where once you get catcalled in classroom, once you suffer sexual harassment, there's a disincentive and stigma for you to attend class forever. We tell you a lot of vibrant young women drop out of the education system because of their gender. But secondly, we're talking about race. I'm privileged because as a Chinese, individuals assume that I'm good at maths. Individuals assume that I probably work very hard. But if you're an Orang Asli or Indian in Malaysia, unfortunately, you suffer from a lot of social discrimination that is tied to your race. An example that I wanted to bring up is in April 2017, whereas a lecturer in University of Malaya told 2 Indian students to get out of the classroom because they are deemed as liars and cheaters. Sure, that lecturer was suspended, but this shows that even though academics is supposed to be neutral, humans are flawed at the end of the day. We all suffer from preconceived notions of other races, which is why we believe that open access education is superior in eliminating the propensity to commit those kinds of discrimination in classrooms. Because number one, those individuals who come to your classroom can be anonymous, and that's why they are able to access that education. But thirdly, I'm talking about individuals who suffer from being born on the wrong side of the sexual orientation, where you have to hide your identity all the time. And if you are found out, the 4 years of university is going to be living hell on earth for you. What is our comparative in our world? When you have an online education system, it's a safe space for all. You can learn within the safe confines of your own homes and within a community that loves you and accepts you, that's willing to give you all the opportunities that there is. We think that in our world, all those minorities that suffer discrimination in the physical world is able to at least get a degree online in the safe confines of that computer, and that is the benefit that such opposition will never be able to guarantee you.
I thank the Deputy Prime Minister for that speech. Now I call upon the Deputy Leader of Opposition.
Ladies and gentlemen, humans are social animals. We feed off of these energies. It's ours at higher heights. Now we cannot stop the march of progress. The fourth industrial revolution is stay. But we, the opposition, trying to prove the point that human interaction and the process of collaborative learning that comes from brick-and-mortar institutions is paramount. It is paramount to the growth of us as individuals and for the growth of us as society. Now, before I move on to my substantive speech, I would like to address a few rebuttals, if you wouldn't mind. The Deputy Prime Minister, I'm sure you can all hear me now. The Deputy Prime Minister stated, and we have no fundamental arguments with that stance, by the way, that it is time for the future to take over. Online learning is here to stay and will probably be driven by layers of extrasensory components resulting from the fourth industrial revolution. That's great. He does not, however, completely elaborate as to why brick and mortar classes are bad. We believe there is room for both. There is no reason to completely eliminate or abrogate or abbreviate either online learning or practicum that results in growing your social skills. Open access lectures, great idea, by the way. You can study on your own time. Flexi hours, wonderful. I'll study when my wife doesn't bother me. It's a great idea. The problem is, for that to work out, individuals need to be self-directed and self-motivated. This is a particular problem for weaker students. Why? They're weaker for a reason. They have trouble learning. They need guidance. And that is where brick and mortar classrooms come in. Also, the idea that the Deputy Prime Minister, in fact, the Prime Minister himself floated, that social interactivity, the idea that we can all hang out at the end of the day and go to a mama and have nasi lemak it's possible. It's not so bad. We can still do it, even if we got online classrooms. I'm sorry, but it won't work. And there's a reason for that. One of the biggest pros that, of course, the government side mentioned is that the ability of geographically diverse people to come together on a virtual platform, have debates, have discussions, learn. If this is a borderless world, the fourth industrial revolution generates a borderless world. I can be in Pakistan, not require a visa to study in Harvard. That's great. But I'm sorry, I cannot have nasi lemak with you at the end of the day. That's not how it works. I apologize. But I seriously don't have the money to buy a plane ticket and then go back home. Now I will move on to my substantive speech. The fundamental clash, which I believe the government side failed to address, is this in this debate. It is the value of social skills and face-to-face collaborative learning that you acquire through teachers, through physical teachers, right? Physical classrooms versus the efficiency, cost effectiveness, and reach of fourth industrial revolution-driven online learning. That is the fundamental clash. And with the opposition, and I will restate the leader of the opposition stand, this boils down to two key words: reach versus ramifications. That underpins this debate. Two sentences framing our case. Students acquire the social intelligence to navigate society. Tertiary level education is their last jumping point before they go into the cesspool that is working life. I think we've all been there. We know how it works out. Office politics, water cooler conferences. Number two, collaborative learning that comes from being in the presence of great teachers who can sense the room, who can tell you if you hate this subject, but will find a way to make you like it without distractions. There is no mother screaming in your ear, "Why didn't you take the trash out last night?" Or there's no girlfriend texting you repeatedly, "Do you not love me anymore?" Collaborative learning without distractions. These are the two phrases on which the opposition case relies on. So let me move on and elaborate a little bit before I bore you all to tears. What is social intelligence? Social intelligence means you have the skills to navigate society. What does that even mean? Office politics. You have to figure out a way to deal with your irate colleagues. You have to figure out a way to deal with your horrible boss. There are even two movies after that, Horrible Bosses, right? Understanding group dynamics. When you enter a new workplace, if you do not have the social skills to identify that you, and you are my tribe, I can hang out with you, we can grow together, do you know what's going to happen? You're going to be isolated and alone. That is why the social skills that you learn from great teachers and great mentors are so important. Thirdly, people talk a lot about Ivy Leagues. Harvard is this, Harvard is that, Cambridge, whoopee. Do you know why they're so great? Because they have a huge alumni network that look after their own tribe. That is the fundamental reason. People focus far too much on curriculums. In this age of globalization, we generally follow the same set patterns of education. We're trying to inculcate the same skills in these people. The difference, ladies and gentlemen, is that if I am from Harvard, most likely I am a CEO. And guess what? When you come to me for a job, I will say, yeah, you're from Harvard, not bad. Let's go, let's talk. Right? That is the fundamental three underpinnings. You find your tribe, you find a way to navigate office politics, and you find a way to know the right people at the right time, at the right place. That is the function of social intelligence that only brick and mortar institutions can provide you. Employability. I believe the Prime Minister was talking about employability. The government bench was. The Malay Bill, great, beautiful survey. 2016, I read, the top complaint of employers is terrible communication skills. Guess what? That comes from being an introvert. It comes from not talking enough. If you are shy, ladies and gentlemen, a shy kid should not just hide behind a computer now, should he? He should be in a controlled classroom environment with a nurturing teacher who tells him, kiddo, it's okay. If you mess up now, it's okay. We will give you the necessary skills. We will empower you to be able to express yourself, to express your opinions, so that when you go out there in the big bad world, you can express your opinions, hold on to them, make arguments that other people believe and find you trustworthy for. Moving on. The opposition leader mentioned a fantastic point, which is that brick and mortar schools inspire focused learning. Which is true, like I already mentioned, remove distraction. That is super important. You don't want your mom yelling in your ear all the time, take your trash, right? Extra help available on time. It's a wonderful concept, especially for weaker students. The problem, ladies and gentlemen, with online learning, regardless of whether it's driven by, driven by holograms or driven by artificial intelligence, the problem remains the same. Asynchronous communication generally means there will be canned videos and text. Great teachers work by feeling the room. I can shake your hand and tell what kind of person you are. Eye contact is important. That's how mentors develop lifelong relationships. We develop them by being in the same room, looking you in the eye and saying, you know what, I understand what your deficiencies are. Going forward, I will find a way to make you successful in life. That's what great teachers do. How will you find extra hours coaching when you need it on time? You never will. There'll be an email you send today, the reply will come 4 days later. What happened? My sister had her wedding. I'm sorry, that was more important than your, whatever you needed for me to clarify. And lastly, and this is very important, it widens the gap in education experience between the West and places like Africa, India, and Afghanistan. Unless universal access to internet broadband is made possible through perhaps something like a global climate change fund, a variation of that, whereas a global internet accessibility fund, it will only widen economic disparities around the world, ladies and gentlemen. And that is why, for that very reason, the opposition is very proud to oppose. Thank you very much.
I thank the Deputy Leader of Opposition for that speech. Now I'd like to call upon the Opposition Reply Speaker to the floor. Hear, hear.
Ladies and gentlemen, Moby was right. Most students don't speak up a lot. They're all warriors online, but they're quietest people in person. So that is the problem we face in this debate, is that a lot of individuals, especially students now, all face social problems and are unable to speak to other people a lot. They all suffer from interpersonal skills and unable to communicate. While a lot of people in this room might not be able to sympathize, because most of these people in the room probably know how to communicate very well, a larger majority of students face this problem. A lot of them can't, and a lot of them require interpersonal skills in order to communicate. Otherwise, most of them talk to their parents, talk to their sisters, their brothers, and then they don't go far beyond those individuals. Then they don't actually communicate with people that you want them to communicate with, and we think that's a problem. In this debate, to be clear, we agree with all their benefits. We think online classes are great, but we think that all of this on-campus experience should also exist alongside online experiences. They will never be irrelevant, and they will always be useful. So here are a couple of things that we like to respond to cite government. So they said that racial and gender-based discrimination is horrible, and we agree with that. We think the suspension of the lecturer because of her racism was really good. But that's why it's important, is that we needed to deal with discrimination and racism and not force minorities to hide behind a screen whenever they face discrimination. Putting them behind a screen and putting them online away from racist people are not the way in which we solve racism and discrimination. We had to fix policies, we had to suspend lecturers that are racist. That's what we have to do, and we have been doing that, and we think that is great. Thirdly, we also said that not everyone had access to technology and didn't refuse, and we don't think site government wanted to ever think about that. In that in the future, technology might be better, but some countries in the world will remain poor. And some countries in the world who right now, despite all our technological advancement, still don't have access to clean water. In the future, they still won't have access to clean water and 4G internet. So in a world in which all of the classes move online, they get left behind, as well as certain rural parts of each country. And we think that's horrible. In a world in which classes are only online, and certain individuals will always get left behind. Next, we also think it's very important that only on-campus experiences are able to ensure a certain very important things. Aside from interpersonal skills, these require you to truly network, to find mentors, to find individuals who think alike. A lot of the recent tech companies all started out by individuals meeting on campus and finding out that they all had similar interests and start big and great companies. This is because they're able to interact, talk on a daily basis, understand that they all have similar talents and all want to do great things. If you're all online and you're all not meeting each other and not communicating with each other, we don't think that will happen. We don't think all of these great companies would have been started. We think people with existing network, with good families, will have those network. But people who don't have it will never be able to find it because they won't be able to interact with a group of people that have those networking. And we think it's really important. So at the end of this debate, the question you need to ask yourself isn't that whether online classes are good or bad. We think they're good. But whether or not physical classes have no benefit at all. We think they still do and are still relevant. We're proud to oppose.
I think the opposition reply speaker for that speech. Now I call for the last speaker of the House government reply. Here.
I think the problem with the opposition case is that they assumed it would just be students on keyboards, not looking at anyone. But that's not what we proposed in this debate. We told you could do things like have video conferencing where you could see people right in front of you. You could go to a law court. You could go get experience at a hospital, but you didn't need to be confined to the physical campus of that university. So the first question I'll ask is there room for both? We don't think there is. Because one, the cost of maintaining a physical campus means that necessarily takes away from the cost of being able to develop technology necessary to have a proper online learning experience. But secondly, when physical universities exist, that is seen as the norm. So students will always preference that. When they no longer exist, we think we can preference online education and more students will become more accustomed to that. Their main case was premised on the idea then that there were a lot of benefits to in-person learning that could not be replicated. But we told you that this was not true because you could still do things like build personal relationships. We are social creatures, but that means that we build communication skills through our friends and our family, and also through like seeing a person on a screen in front of you in a video conference. That was possible through our system. Things like concentration, we gave you incentives for why students would still concentrate, but it meant that if you were sick for one class, you didn't fall behind versus a physical environment where you had to be there. When people need help, the grades can identify them and they can receive help from their teachers, but they can do that in an online capacity. But also, they ignored the fact that we would provide practice in a physical environment that was more relevant, such as at a hospital or such as at a school. You didn't need to be at a campus. At the end of the day, though, this had to be contrasted to all the benefits that we provided you through open and online education, such as the fact that low-income students could more easily access this type of education. Their only response was to say that, well, there are some countries that don't have the technology and the internet. But the thing is, one, when you don't have to maintain a physical environment, you have more resources to invest in those sorts of things. But also, just comparatively, it was more easy to afford a laptop or something like that versus the expensive fees that often come from in-person learning environments. We told you, though, that you also help people who are limited geographically and can now more easily attend the university of their choice. We also told you about safe spaces that online forums provide. Their response was to say, but we have to deal with racism. We have to deal with those issues. Yes, we do. But in the meantime, we don't think it's fair to force survivors of sexual assault or survivors of discrimination to have to stay in an environment that they feel uncomfortable with. And lastly, we told you that we build skills and we build capacity for the new workplaces where employers more than ever expect that students have literacy skills in online abilities, that they are able to communicate in the new flexible online workplaces that exist today. And for those reasons, very happy to propose.
Let's give the debaters another round of applause. For what an insightful and amazing debate. I hope everyone enjoyed it. So,
I thought I said this is possible. Yes.
I would like to now invite our guest to the stage.
It's all press now.
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Before we begin the press conference for this launch, I would like to once again introduce our VIPs for the benefit of the press. Yang Berhormat, Datuk Sri Haji Idris Yusof, Minister of Higher Education Malaysia. Mr. Zahir Merchant, Council Member of Quest International University Perak. Mr. Nicholas Goh, Chief Operating Officer of Quest University International Perak. Associate Professor Dr. Chandran Somasundran of Universiti Malaya, Executive Advisor for MIDP and the Chief Educator for QIUP WUPIC 2017. And Dr. Daniel Husni, which is the co-founder of WUPIC. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Zahir Merchant, Council Member of Quest International University Perak, to present a welcoming remark.
Thank you. Thank you. Yang Berhormat Datuk Sri Haji Idris bin Yusof, Yang Berbahagia Datuk Kamal bin Muhammad, Associate Professor Dr. Chandran Somasundram, Mr. Nicholas Goh, my CEO, senior officials of the Higher Education Ministry, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the launch of the QIUP WUPIC 2017. Thank you, Yang Berhormat, for gracing this occasion and our launch this evening. QIUP is proud to be title sponsors and host university for the upcoming WUPIC. We believe that this tournament is a worthy tournament to develop youth, and we're glad to have revived WUPIC, which has been inactive for a few years now. Debate skills, in my opinion, are essential to public life. When the world's first universities were developed, 3 skills were considered essential for leadership and for promotion of the best ideas. They were essentially grammar, logic, and rhetoric, what we have commonly now known as reading, writing, and speaking. Today, in the 21st century, the ability to create, present, and evaluate ideas remain essential to democracy and to commerce in modern society. A debate program, I think, fosters all these traits. Debate programs help transform students. I think if we were to listen to the spirited debate in which today's debate was conducted, that is a prime example of respect, literacy, and elucidation of certain ideas which have taken place. They also engage voluntarily in a social activity that presents intellectual benefits, rewards academic skills, quick thinking, sound arguments, and confident speaking. There are few college spaces where intellectual and social goals align so well holistically to transform a young citizen. And for those who observe debates, they see reasoning, articulation, listening, responding, and ultimately, as I said, respect for each other. Debate programs are also relevant today to create leaders. In a world in which incorrect information, unjustified ideas are propagated and abundant, debate creates the sort of leaders who can research accurately and direct public thinking towards progressive thinking. Our University Council Chairman, Dr. Vijay Iswaran, envisions QIUP to a forward-thinking institution in its approach to business, entrepreneurship, and real-life application in academic studies. To achieve this vision, we want to attract the brand of students who value intellectual curiosity over pure academic excellence. Our involvement in QIUP WUPID 2017 is a testament to be associated with the best of the upcoming what WUPID has attracted in terms of universities. As I understand it, the University of Sydney, who are currently the world champions, and the University of Oxford, who are ranked #1 in debates, are amongst the other prestigious universities which are attending. To ensure that QIUP meets standards and also to gauge ourselves, we constantly send our students to compete in national and international academic competitions. This, I think, also helps build the confidence of our students, and debate competitions is one of the key areas in which we hope to continue to participate in. We have thus far received certain accolades, and I think it is with every other team that is participating that I take it upon myself to wish everybody the very best in these debates, and I hope that it goes as well as I have heard for this afternoon. I thank the Malaysian Institute for Debate and Public Speaking, who are instrumental in making QIUP and WUPID a success. And once again, thank you, Yang Berhormat, for gracing this event. Thank you all this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Zari Merchant, for that speech. I'm honored to now invite Dato Sri Haji Idris Yusof, Minister of Higher Education Malaysia, for a keynote address.
And Assalamualaikum and very good afternoon. This is my first time listening to this kind of debate. The kind of debate that I had in school before was much different. Free from the proposed topic and whether the tree with opposing it. But I love this kind of debate better. That was good. And I do believe that the standard has improved tremendously. And it is good that you are reviving this international debate, world debate in Malaysia. So I would like to congratulate Quest for making this effort to revive this debate in Malaysia. It's good to know that there's going to be 20 top debating universities participating, 80 students who will be talking about peace, global peace, discussing with each other how to make this world a better place to live, a more sustainable place to live rather than quarreling whether it should be totally online or not. But there could be another topic which is very interesting done. Being a Minister of Higher Education, I do embrace both. So both of you are right. There's no wrong, actually. So you are equally good. You are equally right. And both of you win the debate this time. It's good to know that the University of Sydney, Oxford, together with Malaysian universities, IIUM and UITM, will be participating. And as I said, it's good to know that we are reviving the spirit of debate in the country. And I do hope that this will improve the quality of debates we have in the country as a whole. So again, thank you to Quest, thank you to all of you who make it possible in Malaysia. And as a Minister of Higher Education, I'm proud that you revive this debate in Malaysia. Thank you very much.
Okay, do we have any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Sri Haji Idris Yusof, for that speech. The floor will be now open for question and answer session.
I got a question. I'm from Redcard TV. It's a sister company of Suponsa. Redcard is actually from Singapore. We have a partnership here with a company in Kuala Lumpur. My question is, we've seen a lot of improvements in debating activities here in Malaysia. I think a lot of debaters in Malaysia has also gone very far in terms of its achievement globally. Dato', are there any plans in the pipeline from the ministry to ensure that these achievements are maintained and further developed? Thank you.
If you are to see how we evaluate students, Malaysia is the only country which has introduced integrated CGPA. So it's not just CGPA, but we call it integrated CGPA. The students have been evaluated not only on their academic performance, but also on their entrepreneurial skill, on their ethics, practical skills, and also communication skill. So if you look at that, it's incorporated in our higher education system. We developed the system using spiderweb approach. You can ask your uncle Google integrated CGPA. You would have known it's all about, meaning that we're serious about it, up to the point that we even introduced a so-called evaluation system to ensure that we know how to speak well, to ensure that we see the importance of communication in our daily life.
I have another one. Sorry, Ogi. I wanted to ask Dr. Chandran, Chief Adjudicator. We noticed that in the list of the invited institutions, there's no team from University Malaya, but you're from University Malaya. Can you explain to us how the ranking system is done and why are there only 2 institutions from Malaysia?
I don't know. Maybe the organizers forgot that the current national champions are actually University Malaya. And in the most recent international tournament, which ended 2 weeks ago at Cambodia, the Asian Championship, UM was the highest ranked Malaysian team in the tournament. So I'm sure they'll take into account these achievements and maybe add more teams to the list.
Can you just explain how, is there a specific method?
I think from previous WUPE, what we do is we take the top 20 ranked teams from the last Worlds, and then we invite them based on those rankings.
Yes, sure. Hello, my name is Jay. I'm from Pichara. We're from Indonesia. I'm representing all the media that cooperate with us, that's helping Pulpit audition for Indonesian representation, Pulpit Global in Malaysia. Question is like, I'm so surprised and always admire Malaysia as the only dependent country that hosts such a prestigious tournament that like Pulpit. And I don't have ever researched any other country that's done this type of tournament exclusively like the country. What my question would be for the folks we had this Yusuf. I'm wondering what is expected result investing in such prestigious tournament, inviting a lot of international debaters participating in your country. And then second question, what would you suggest to those who are coming in and see Malaysia in the debate? Thank you.
First of all, if you look in our blueprint, education blueprint, we want to deliver a holistic, entrepreneurial, and balanced graduates. So whatever the needs are, in order to deliver that, we'll encourage. But in this case, Quest is a host, They're spending the money. We're supporting, okay? It's a Quest who believe in it, and we also believe in it, and we're supporting them in whatever way that we need. So, of course, we welcome all the others to come to Malaysia. And lately, if you look at the British Council latest survey in terms of mobility of UK students, the first choice is Malaysia. That's the letters that's been published only a month ago. So we see more and more people come here, and we want to make Malaysia as an educational hub, besides ensuring that Malaysia get the best education that they can get locally.
Hi, my name is Ahmed from the Malaysian Institute for Leading Public Speaking. My question is for Yang Muhammad Sri. I would like to know further if there's any steps taken in order to improve the critical thinking and the application of English language in the Malaysian education system. Done by the Ministry of Higher Education.
Okay. As you see, the integrated CGPA is a tool, actually, whereby the evaluation is going to be more holistic rather than just your CGPA. And we are also developing the so-called Malaysia English Test, MET, which would have will be recognized by European framework, CEFR, Common European Framework, to ensure the standard of English. It's going to be like TOEFL, it's going to be like those English tests. We're developing that by September. The test should be ready, and it should be rolled out to all Malaysian students so that we can test where they are and what level they are. So it's going to be, if you look at CEFR, there are categories such as A, B, and C. If you are of A and B categories, you are just good students, but you are of C categories, these people with C categories would be able to even to teach English in the European countries. So these are the levels that we're fixing.
Sorry, follow up. So that's on English language history. A study done by our institute showed that debating is one of the most holistic method of, there are a lot of benefits you get from debating that includes leadership, critical thinking. I can share with you one of these days if you're interested. My question, Dr. Sri, would you ever be interested in having, say, debating as part of the national syllabus, or perhaps making it mandatory for debating to be a club that, for a club to exist in, or universities or even schools? Yeah, so that's the question.
We really encourage. Universities they don't want the autonomy to be disturbed. And the sole power of having curriculum universities are by the Senate of the universities. Of course, ministry will encourage, but we are not going to impose them. It's up to the various universities to incorporate if you think it is necessary.
Any last questions?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Hi. Sharing one actuarial from one of the universities and also from the creator. I would like to ask Quest University, what actually motivated you to host the event?
Thank you. Actually, hosting an event of such is in our DNA. Because as a university, as Quest International University, we are in Perak, Ipoh, right? And we are new, 6 years old university, right? Hosting an event is nothing to us. Actually, we have been participating even in second year of our existence. We won international competitions. We have sent team to even as far as Yogyakarta, to Chiang Mai, to Singapore to compete against the best in the world. Because our founding chairman, Dr. Sri Vijay Swarans, wanted us to be a university not here to produce graduates, just basically be a degree mill, in other words. Okay? We want our students to be relevant to the workplace in line with Dr. Sri visions, you know. Whereas all the, for example, why are we hosting this? Because we feel that as I'm very happy that my student actually arguing on my side, you know, Bobby. Okay, so basically, basically we feel that communication skill is essential. Okay, a lot of students can score 4.0, but they cannot express themselves. That's why we have a lot of students probably still looking for jobs. Okay, and then Quest International University, this is one of the things that we are trying to address, and we make sure. Actually, as a matter of fact, as a bit of advertisement, in line with Datuk Sri was saying, in our own university, every teaching staff must go through what? Oxford English test. If you don't score excellent and above, you won't be teaching in Quest. Okay, and because we are still waiting for Datuk Sri. Once the MIDP is in place, we probably switch to our MIDP. Right now, we are relying on Oxford. Yeah, and I believe Datuk Sri, there's no university in Malaysia doing that. Because we make sure that each and every teaching staff, including the supporting staff, you know, the administrative staff, they must score what for teaching staff must score C1, C2, or else you won't be teaching in Quest. For supporting staff, minimum B2, or else you'll be attending classes. Okay, and for new staff, you won't be employed. Okay, so that's how important it is communication skill. You must master the language, then you can communicate. And for us, this investment, I think one for us to invest in this is that we want to showcase and also to attract students with like mind, whereas the emphasis of one of the criteria of good student, future employee, is that you must be able to communicate apart from excellence academic achievement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That wraps up our Q&A session. Now, now we'd like to invite the debaters who are debating in exhibition debate to have a picture session with our guests.
We sit down or stand up?
We can stand up. Yes, move the table. Okay. Thank you very much. Very good. Should we organize ourselves? You can tell.
Please, come the door.
Come in.
Come the door.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Ready? Stand up, please.
soaring upwards.
Sorry?
Take a look at this.
Soaring upwards.
Oh, okay.
This is our ministry's motto, so everybody does like soaring upwards.
Oh, right.
Sure, yeah. Has to be right hand.
Right hand.
Right hand like that. Yeah, that's
Which
right.
direction though?
That's right, upwards. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got it.
So it's up.
Soaring!
Upwards. Soaring! Upwards. Soaring! Upwards. Okay.
The debaters in a bit closer because we want some close crop shots for the press.
Okay, the debaters
come here. Why don't you come in front?
Yeah.
You're not going to come right. Oh, no, right. You're sorry, since you're tall, you can come here.
Oh, you call me tall.
So it's not a formal photo, so you all have to pretend like you're talking.
Oh,
Yeah.
so very, okay.
Yeah.
Pretend that we're talking.
Right, so
Pretend,
yeah.
The papers are
You look great, buddy. Pretending you're talking, I can do that all night. I don't think you want to get me started.
With that, don't look at the camera, girl.
Pretend not to look at the camera, look at the camera.
Look at the camera. I think it's very.
Get better instructions, please.
Yeah.
Pretend that we're talking.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Nice, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Very kind. Thank you for your help. Thank you so much. Privilege, sir. Thank you so much. Privilege and honor. Thank you. Privilege and honor.
I got to spend the day in jail yesterday, so that was nice. But yeah, so I have to go back to work, unfortunately. Yeah. Yes. I have to get back to work, unfortunately. Oh, it's alright, it was my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Yes, exactly.